Song 39, Rechumpa's Repentance, Obeisance to all Gurus. When the Jetson Milarepa and his son Rechungpa were approaching Drin on the way to Butu, Rechungpa said, "I would like to stay in Drin tonight and meet the patrons." But Milarepa replied, "My son, let us first go to Butu without the knowledge of our patrons, disciples, or the monks." In a displeased mood, Rechungpa obeyed, and continued with Milarepa to Jipu Nimadzun at Butu of Red Rock. Upon their arrival, the Jetson said, "Rechungpa, fetch some water, and I will make a fire." On his way back to the hermitage with the water, Rechungpa reached a slope where he could see below him the great, delightful plateau between Butu and Jipu. He saw in the centre a mountain she-goat giving birth to a kid. Then the mother and daughter each gave birth to another kid. They in turn bore more kids, until eventually there were 200 of them. These wild mountain goats frisked about so happily with such innocence and spontaneity that Rechungpa was amazed. He thought, "These mountain goats are even livelier and in many ways better than those at Balang Tang." With great interest he watched them play for some time. Meanwhile Milarepa, who had lit the fire, opened the books that Rechungpa had brought back from India, and said with great compassion, "I sincerely pray to all Dakinis. I pray you to save and keep the formless Dakinis Dharma for which I sent from India, the teachings that will benefit the doctrine and all sentient beings. I sincerely pray to all guards of Dharma to destroy all heretical books of vicious mantras that will certainly bring great harm to the doctrine and to sentient beings." After this prayer, Milarepa meditated for a short time, and then he burnt most of the books until only a few incomplete folios were left. Now while Rechungpa was watching the mountain goats at play, he saw a masterful goat take the part of a wolf and drive the flock across the ridge to the other side of the mountain. At this point Rechungpa thought, "Goodness, I have been dallying too long. I must go back at once or the Jetson will reprimand me." He immediately started to return. When he reached a bridge leading to a cave, he saw smoke rising from it and smelled burning paper. He thought, "Are my books being burned?" When he entered the cave, he saw that there was almost nothing left except the empty wooden covers. He felt as if his heart had been torn asunder. "Where are my books?" he cried to the Jetson in great resentment. Milarepa replied, "You have been away for so long fetching water that I thought you were dead, and so I have burned all the unimportant books. As far as I am concerned, they were useless, and are merely temptations to distract one's mind and hinder one's devotion. By the way, what made you linger so long?" In his pride, Rechungpa thought, "My guru has now become very bitter and egoistic. He has affronted me sorely. Should I return to Dipupa and stay with him again, or should I go elsewhere?" Thinking thus, Rechungpa lost all faith in the Jetson. He sat there deadly quiet for some time. Then he said, "I was watching the wild goats at play, that's why I was late. Now the gold you gave me and the hardship I underwent in India have all become meaningless and wasted. I am leaving for another country now." Saying this, Rechungpa became hostile and disdainful to the Jetson out of his bad faith towards him. Milarepa then said, "My son Rechungpa, you do not have to lose all your faith in me. All this should be blamed on your dalliance. If you want to be amused, I can entertain you. Now watch." Instantaneously, this wondrous vision took form. Upon Milarepa's head, the translator Marpa appeared clearly as Dorje Chang, sitting upon the sun and moon lotus of seat of gems. Encircling him were the gurus of the transmission. To the right and left of Milarepa's eyes and ears shone 2 moons and suns. From his nostrils streamed rays of light of 5 different colours like silk threads. From his eyebrows shone a radiant light. His tongue became a small 8-petaled lotus seat with the sun and moon orb above it, from which sparkled brilliant and extremely fine letters, vowels and consonants, as if written by a single split hair. From his heart rayed forth other beams of light, which then turned into numerous small birds, whereupon Milarepa sang, "Hearken to me, my son Rechungpa. Above my head, upon the sun-moon orb of the lion seat, sits my gracious Guru Marpa, the divine embodiment of Buddha Dorje Chang. Round him like a string of jewels are the gurus of the lineage. If you behold them with faithful eyes, you will be blessed by the rain of grace, and fulfilled will be your wishes. Interesting it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can this compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. On the tips of my ears a sun and moon shine, glowing as the radiant rainbow. This reveals the union of wisdom and skill. This proves my steadfast illumination. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. The 5-coloured rays from my nostrils, streaming like jewelled threads, are the essence of sound and marvel. This shows my mastery of prana through the Vajra reciting yoga. This proves that I have entered the central channel of my life force. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa listened to me for a moment. At the midpoint between my eyes appears the auspicious sign of the radiant dispu. This shows the essence of pure form. This proves the blessed radiance of Buddha's compassion. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa listened to me for a moment. The red lotus with 8 petals opens in my mouth, adorned with a garland of consonants and vowels. They are the symbols of all Vajra teachings. That which is without end or limitation, beholding them with reverent eyes, you will realize all dharmas are your speech. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa listened to me for a moment. From the centre of my heart stream glowing beams of light. This shows the Trikaya's immutability. This shows the unity of mercy in the void. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Rechungpa, however, paid no attention to the Jetson's advice, but sat there silently and in deep resentment. He looked askance at the miraculous scene, but showed not the slightest sign of interest in it. Then he said, "There is nothing surprising in all this. It is just more amusing to watch the play of goats." Although the Jetson had worked such a great miracle, Rechungpa showed neither interest nor admiration, but continued to demand that the Jetson give back his books. For a while he merely sat there in persistent indignation and silence. Then he got up, stamped heavily, and sat down again. Putting his elbows on his knees and resting his chin on his hands, he began to hum meaninglessly. In the meantime, the Jetson's body had become radiantly transparent. On his secret centre appeared Buddha Dorje Danji. On his navel centre appeared Buddha Demchok. On his heart centre, Buddha Jepa Dorje. On his throat centre, Buddha Mahamaya. Between his eyebrows, Buddha Shakyamuni. And upon his head, Buddha Sumwangdupa, all encircled by many deities and their retinues. These divine bodies, vivid yet devoid of any self-nature, were all distinctly visible under a great 5-coloured canopy of light. Whereupon Milarepa sang, "My body is the infinite palace of goddesses, wherein dwell all Buddhas in the universe. In my secret centre, where bliss is preserved, dwells the Buddha Dorje Danyi and his retinue. Glorifying my sealed chakra of bliss, he embodies Buddha's innate wisdom. In the conjuration chakra at my navel dwells the Buddha Demchok and his retinue. This is the chakra and 2 and 6 gods, 60 gods, where in essence dwells the Vajra body. In the Dharma chakra in my heart dwells Buddha Jedo and 9 deities. They are the essence of the 3 sattvas. This is the chakra of the Vajra mind. In the enjoyment chakra at my throat dwells the Buddha Mahamaya and his retinue. Symbolizing the enjoyment of all forms, this is the chakra where the Vajra is expressed. In the white conch chakra between my eyebrows dwells Buddha Shakyamuni and many deities. He is the symbol of wisdom and merits. This is the chakra of unity. In the great bliss chakra on my head dwells Buddha Shungwandupa and many gods. This is the chakra of great bliss, where the nadis and bindus both unite. Son, if you identify yourself with the Buddha, the divine body will vividly appear. Your flesh and blood will be transformed into the rainbow body. Of all marvels, this is most marvellous. Son, do not lose your faith, but increase your veneration." Rechungpa said, "Your miracles are indeed wonderful, but my mind will not be at ease if I cannot have my books back, so please return them to me." The Jetson then passed through rocks and other obstacles, flew by on a rock, walked and sat on water, poured fire and water from his body, flew through and sat in the sky, and transformed his body from one to many and from many to one. While doing so, he sang, "Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. Look, nothing can impede me. This proves my mind with all forms has merged. That I can ride upon a rock flying through the air proves I have mastered outer objects. Walking on water as on earth proves I have unified the 4 elements. The flow of fire and water from my body proves I have mastered all the elements. Transforming one body into many and many into one proves I can benefit all beings. By miracles, sitting, walking, and lying in the sky proves my prana rests in the central channel. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Son, if you lose not your faith, your prayers will be fulfilled." Rechungpa said, "Your miracles are like child's play. You have demonstrated them so much that instead of being interesting, they are dull and tiring. If you are really compassionate, please return me my books." Milarepa replied, "My son, do not lose faith in your father. If you pray sincerely, you will realize that all manifestations are holy books. Now try to pray for me for this realization." Then Milarepa went to a narrow path used by merchants on their way to Drin. There he picked up a huge rock that blocked the path, cut a part of it into pieces with his hands, as if slicing a cake, threw the bits into the sky, as if spraying water, and stamped on the remaining rock as those trampling on soft clay. Finally, with one hand he threw this huge rock into the river in the valley below and sang. Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. On this narrow mountain path stood an iron rock with 8 edges. Its right edge was brushed when travellers mounted, its left when the path descended. 100 blacksmiths with their hammers could not have split this gigantic stone. A fire heated by 100 bellows could not have melted it. But behold, I slice it as I would cut a cake. I threw the bits as I would sprinkle water. I stamped upon it as I would trample mud, and flung it like an arrow from a bow. If with faith you look upon your Father, wish-fulfilling rain will fall upon you. The treasury of wish fulfillment will be realized. Interesting it may be to watch this play of goats, but how can it compare to this wondrous game? Try, my son, to change your mind at once. Still without faith in the Jetson, Rechungpa said, if you can perform the miracle of restoring my books, I shall then have faith in you. Otherwise I shall not be happy or satisfied. Whereupon, as though spreading wings, Milarepa held out his robe and flew straight into the sky above the precipice of the red rock. He fluttered and hovered there like a hawk, and then darting to the ground like a flash of lightning. While performing these miracles, he sang, Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. Here on the peak of Red Rock stands thy sky castle. Flying over it, a huge hawk flaps its wings, while small birds shake in fright. No human being has flown here before. None will fly here again. Now look at this old man in flight. Look at him soaring like a vulture in the sky. See, he hovers like a hawk, darts to the ground like lightning, and floats cloud-like in the air. If you have faith in miracles, through mastering the body, practice that mastery. Then you can conquer and unite samsara and nirvana. Amazing it may be to watch the play of goats, but how can it compare with this wondrous game? Try, my son Rechungpa, to straighten out your mind. Milarepa's miracles, however, did not overly impress Rechungpa. He only glanced at them indifferently and still had no faith in the Jetson. Then once more Milarepa held out his robe like a bird spreading its wings and flew into the sky, and there he sang. Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. On the peak of Red Rock in the Mon Mountains suddenly appeared a flock of goats, without any reason, a spontaneous play of an on-arising reality. One goat played the wolf, chasing the flock over the ridge. This symbolized the awareness and the conquest of one's foibles. This indicated the crossing over the Mount of Dualism. This was Milarepa's conjuration to show Rechungpa the essential teachings. To the miracles of your father you showed indifference, but in the play of goats you showed great interest. This is indeed the sign that you have lost your mind. I have showed you such great miracles, yet you have no faith in me. When I think of men like you, faithless disciples all, at this time of defilement I feel sad and sick at heart. Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. Hard horn and solid wood can be bent if one tries, but a harsh mind is hard to bend. Rechungpa, try to subdue your mind within. Fierce tigers in the south and wild jacks in the north can be tamed if one tries, but pride and egotism are hard to tame. Rechungpa, try to subdue conceits within. Mice under the ground and birds in the sky can be caught if one tries, but a lost mind is hard to catch. Rechungpa, try your own faults to see. The dharma of words and speculation can be learned if one tries, but the void self-mind is hard to learn. Rechungpa, try to meditate on the uncreated mind. A son may leave his father and his loving mother too, but a bad temperament is hard to leave behind. Rechungpa, try to change your temper and conceit. Jewels, house and land one renounces if one tries, but to renounce pleasure-craving is hard. Rechungpa, try to give up your desire for pleasure. Good jewels and a lovely sweetheart, if need be, can be left. But to leave a soft warm bed is hard indeed. Rechungpa, try to give up the blind sleep of a corpse. Here and there hills and rocks may meet face to face, but to see the self-face of your mind is hard. The king's and queen's decrees can be evaded if one tries, but no one can evade Yama, the lord of death. Rechungpa, may make use of death for your devotion. My son, try to correct your wrong views, abandon your bad actions, discipline your unruly mind. Your impious thoughts restrain, avoid the demon of egotism. When I come to die, this shall I will for you. No profounder teaching can I give you in my life. Rechungpa, my son, bear my words in mind. As Milarepa sang, he flew higher and higher into the sky until he disappeared. Then, all of a sudden, Rechungpa was filled with remorse, and an unusual faith towards the Jetson burst forth within him. He thought, Because I could not control my temper and give away those worthless books, I have lost my Jetson Guru. I have paid too great a price for those worthless books. The Jetson has performed such great miracles for me, yet I still had no faith in him. Now he has forsaken me as though shedding a heavy burden, and has gone to the Dakini's Pure Land. An unbeliever such as I can never be born there. What is the use of books without a guru? I shall throw myself off this cliff and meet my death. I now make my last wish. In all my future incarnations may I always meet the Jetson, and may my mind ever be at one with his. Having made his wish, Rechungpa plunged into the abyss below with every determination to die. He crashed on a great rock, and when he saw the shadow of the Jetson, crying with all his strength, he called to Milarepa in a most pitiful voice and tried to fly after him, but could not do so. Nevertheless, he managed to walk in the air after Milarepa's shadow until he reached the waist of Red Rock Cliff. He could not go a step farther, but he could see the Jetson and hear his voice. He saw Milarepa sitting in a cavity hollowed out from the inside of the cliff, with his two other transformed bodies sitting beside him, all singing together in response of Rechungpa's call of repentance. Rechungpa, listen to me for a moment. Look from one Father Jetson emanate to others. To them you should confess your sins. Of them you should ask of their well-being. From them you should receive the tantric precepts and ask for initiations and instructions. Of them you should beg the profound demonstration. In them you should take refuge and place your confidence. If you have faith in my miracles, your pride will be curtailed. Ill deeds indicate the victory of Yama. If of him you are afraid, you should abstain from vices. Bad thoughts hinder one's devotion, so of them repent. As the tears poured down his face, Rechungpa sang. Listen to me, Father Guru, embodiment of wisdom and of blessings. Listen to Rechungpa, your blind and impious son. You had no faith in your miracles. Listen, Jetson Guru in the centre. To you make I obeisance and offerings. Of you I ask of your well-being and confess my sins. O my Father Guru, it was you who gave me the precepts, initiations and instructions. It was you who enlightened me and gave me my lasting refuge. Save me, I pray, from stumbling. Protect me with your mercy. Safeguard this poor and impious mendicant. Rechungpa managed to reach the place where Milarepa sat, and then hugged him with such great and overpowering emotion that he fainted. When he came to, Milarepa brought him back to the hermitage. The Jetson then said to Rechungpa, if you wish to attain Buddhahood, you must practice the pith instructions. Those books of polemics and the evil mantras of the heretics had no value for us. The formless teachings of the Dakinis are good as sound. These I did not burn, but I burned all the rest because they would have caused one to fall into the lower realms. In spite of one's original intention to attain Buddhahood, now hearken to my song. Rechungpa, my son, whom from childhood I have cherished, you went to India for the pith instructions, but have brought back books full of arguments. You were thus exposed to the danger of becoming a debater. You wanted to be a yogi, but books like those and their ideas could make you a pompous preacher. To know both one and all, that was your wish, but if you are caught up in endless words, you will wreck the most important one. Your intention was to understand the Dharma, but if you are caught up in endless acts, greedy and arrogant will you become. The immaculate Dharma for which I sent you has flown into the crevice of a rock and is preserved by the Dakinis. You may recover it if you pray sincerely. I have burned the magic books and evil mantras as an offering to the god of fire. Many will be helped by this. Do not lose your temper, lest you be scorched by anger. Do not distress yourself or grieve, for that will hurt your mind and body. Do not bestir yourself with many things, but relax and sit in ease, remembering your Guru and his grace and bounties. Rechungpa thought, my Guru's words are absolutely true and do not differ from the Buddha's. I will now pray the Dakinis to give me back my books. He sat and prayed, and in a short while the formless Dakini teachings, together with other books that were beneficial to the Dharma and to sentient beings, all miraculously returned to Rechungpa's hand. He was delighted beyond all measure. He confirmed and imprinted on his mind a faith that Milarepa was Buddha himself. He thought, so far I have served the Jetson in many ways. Hereafter I will serve him even better than before. This vow he kept and lived up to it all his life. Now the disciples and patrons gathered to welcome Rechungpa. From the assembly, 7 Repa arose and said, you must have learned and brought back from India both the pith instructions, as prophesied by the Jetson, and the science of logic. Now please tell us, how can we win a dispute should we ever become involved in one? Milarepa said to Rechungpa, you may tell them how to win a debate in the light of the Dakini's teachings. In response, Rechungpa sang, the great transmission Buddha, Dorje Chang, will quench your disputes in the lineage. Our Guru Milarepa will end the disputes of craving teachers. The pith instructions and the transmission skillful path will quench all evil arguments. Derived from constant thinking, the omniscient present mirror of equality will reveal all concealed vices. The precious teachings of the great bliss will burn all wandering thoughts in its wisdom flame. The nadis and pranas in the chakras will dispel at once all drowsiness and distractions. The teachings of the self-liberating Mahamudra will conquer the demon of ego clinging in the five consciousnesses. The teachings of the radiant wisdom lamp will dispel darkness and ignorance. The act of Chula swordsmanship will cut with ease the ties of worldly desire. Milarepa commented, "What you have said is very good, but in addition we need the instructions of the view and practice. Now listen to my song. The view is the wisdom of the void. The practice is the illumination of non-clinging. The action is the everlasting play without desire. The fruit is the great immaculate nakedness. Concerning the view of void wisdom, the danger is to miss it. Through words and thoughts, if absolute knowledge has not been gained within, words alone can never free one from ego clinging. Thus you should strive for true understanding. Concerning the practice of illumination free from clinging, the danger is to miss it. By adhering to mere concentration, if wisdom has not shone within, steady and deep concentration by itself will never lead to liberation. Wisdom never comes with distractions and drowsiness. You should thus work hard on mindfulness. Concerning perpetual action without desires, the danger is to miss it. By indulging in idle talk, before all appearances have become aids in one's meditation practice, tantric acts will be worldly desires disguised. You should thus strive for purity and non-clinging. Concerning the immaculate fruit of nakedness, the danger is to miss it through your thought. If ignorances are not purged within, hard effort will bring with but small results. You should thus strive to wipe out ignorance. All present at the meeting were convinced by the truth of this song, and all were inspired with joy. This is the story of the wild goats.